This man unalived his biological daughter because she didn't want to be in a relationship with him. In 1995, 20-year-old Steven began an online relationship with 15-year-old Alyssa. Because of the age difference, it's obviously not allowed. He is an adult and she is a minor. They decided that the best idea was for them to run away and live together. When Alyssa was 17, she gave birth to a little girl called Denise. Several months after Denise was born, Alyssa made the devastating decision to put her daughter up for adoption. The reason Alyssa placed Denise up for adoption is because Steven was really aggressive and started to assault Denise by pinching her and just doing some horrible stuff. So Alyssa feared that if she did not take her daughter out of this situation, her daughter would not live. Denise was then adopted by Anthony and Kelly Fusco, who then legally decided to change her name to Katie so that she could have a fresh start to life. When Katie turned 18, she decided that she wanted to know/meet her biological parents, and of course she was absolutely ecstatic when she found their profiles on Facebook. So Katie decided to message Steven and Alyssa and arrange to meet up with them. After a couple of weeks of meeting up with her biological parents, Katie decided to take the next step and officially move in to their house. Everything was going well. Katie was able to meet her biological parents. She found out that she had 2 younger siblings who were both biological to her, so of course she's excited. Her biological family she's just met. This is when things start to go downhill. Unknown to Katie, before she moved in, Alyssa and Steven were already starting to separate. They were wanting to go through a divorce. They were sleeping in different bedrooms. They just weren't getting along. So when Katie moved in, she finally realised that it wasn't all a perfect picture. Very soon after Katie moved in, Alyssa started to realise that Katie and Steven were getting really close. So when Alyssa asked Steven about it, basically Steven snapped at her and told her that it's none of her business. She should keep her nose at her business. In turn, really upset Alyssa. She stormed out the house, took her 2 kids with her and cut contact. She did have some kind of idea that something was going on, and it wasn't until she read one of the kids' diaries that she found out that Katie and Steven were in fact sleeping together. Biological father, biological daughter, sleeping together. In May 2017, Steven and Katie began a sexual relationship, which of course is not allowed. It's incest. But this then resulted in Katie falling pregnant with her father's child. So this technically means that her son is her brother and Steven's son is his grandson. Weird. Then in September of 2017, Steven and Katie decided to lie about their relationship and say that they were not related at all and got married. In September of 2017, Katie gave birth to a little boy named Bennett, who was in fact Steven's child. In January of 2018, Katie and Steven were arrested on the charges of incest and having a child. They ended up losing custody of Bennett, and Bennett was given over to Steven's mother, who was basically in charge of him now. In court for these charges, Steven would later go on to say basically that the relationship is fine because they were never together for Katie's childhood, so he's technically not her dad because he didn't raise her. Of course the judge was like, you're a psychopath, that is your biological daughter. The judge basically said to have no contact with each other and no contact with Bennett. It's until you're ready for your sentencing. After Katie's bond release, she decided that it was best if she moved back in with her adopted parents, and that is what she did. After moving in with her adopted parents, she then phoned Steven and said she didn't want to be in a relationship with him, and this is what sent Steven over the edge. On April 11th 2018, Steven decided that he was going to unalive his 7-month-old son Bennett. He suffocated him, then set his target on Katie. Later that day, Katie and her adoptive father Anthony decided to drive to Katie's adoptive grandmum, so they decided to drive there, and there was a car following them. In this car was in fact Steven, and his goal was to unalive Katie and Anthony. He would drive from his hometown in North Carolina to Dover, where the grandmother lived. Katie and Anthony stopped at Anthony's mum's house. This car decided to pull up beside them, and out jumped Steven. He then produces a rifle and begins to unalive Katie and Anthony, then later gets in his car and continues to drive. Steven then decides to pull over and phone his mum, starts to confess about what he's done. He tells her that he has unalived Katie and her adoptive father Anthony. He also goes on to say that he has unalived his 7-month-old son Bennett by suffocating him. His mother is obviously frantic and rushes over to the baby and finds out that he is in fact unalive. His mum just does not know how to cope with this information. Steven then turns the rifle on himself and unalives himself. When the police arrive to the scenes, there is no surviving victims. Katie's biological mother Alyssa came out and said that she is of course grieving, she's upset, and she's so unbelievably sad. She also said that she wishes that there was something good that would come out of this, that people would start to open their eyes to incest and that it happens a lot. This is an absolutely heartbreaking story.